close passages, sometimes the very careful with the options, because if you look at the first one, it's actually the 10th blank, right? The first blank is not what is here. I think that's how it is. Let me just quickly check. Yes. So the options are mixed, right? The second one is for the second blank, the third one is for the fifth blank, the fourth one is for the ninth blank. So I need to keep that in mind. And the first blank is somewhere towards the end. I don't know why they do that. As it is, we're very nervous in the exam, and then on top of it, they confuse us with mixing the options, as in mixing the sequence of options. Either ways, I'm just saying we need to keep this in mind. So let's read quickly, because close passage is all about context, so it will help us identify the right word choices. So reading, in a survey dashed by a library, it was recently dashed that parents wish their children to read books with high morale. Around 2,000 parents were interviewed, and most of them dashed Dickens' The Christmas Carol as a must-read for children. This Christmas tale, the filthy rich but dash Scrooge and the poor but contented Cratchit family offers lessons in moral duties. Another book which many parents marked out a dash read was Austen's Pride and Prejudice. The choice of book was rather dash because this romantic novel is more likely to dash teenagers than children. Since Elizabeth's final choice of dairy is deeply rooted in strong morale, dash the parents probably thought she offers a good example for a girl child to follow. So basically, this context is revolving around books that parents feel is appropriate for children to read, right? And there are the examples, some examples are given, some fiction examples are given. Now, let's look at our options and decide which would be the most appropriate fit. Again, for close passage, we've seen the strategies. We always look at the context. We identify word choices based on either collocation concept, looking at words before and after the blank, or we look at the context and we see, okay, is this giving a positive or a negative meaning? Or we identify clue words in the context, right? We identify clue words in the context and then we decide that. Now let's look at the 10th blank, right? The 10th blank says, since Elizabeth's final choice of dairy is deeply rooted in strong morale, dash, the parents probably thought she offers a good example for a girl child to follow. So, looking at the whole context, we already know that the parents are recommending certain novels, which obviously they wanted to be of high morale, right? It says here, deeply rooted in strong morale. And then I have my options. Option A, dilemmas. Option B, considerations. Option C, disturbances. Option D, discomfort. So the entire sequence here, the phrase that I've highlighted, requires a positive word. Out of my options, the only positive word is option B, considerations, right? Not dilemma. When you're in a dilemma, you're in doubt. You're not too sure. You're uncertain. Disturbance, again, is an unrelated word. It's a negative word. Discomfort, not being comfortable, again, an unrelated word in the context. So our answer is considerations. Let's move on to the other blanks. So we'll go with looking at context, right? We've already read the entire context, so we have an idea. So we'll go with the sequence that is there presented. Second blank. So in a survey dashed by a library, it was recently dashed that parents wish their children to read books with high morale dash. So we in fact have 3 blanks here, but what we have here is, let's address the second one, right? Which is this blank. It was recently dash. It was recently revealed. It was recently concurred. It was recently exposed, or it was recently inferred. So basically the parents, it's their parents' wish that their children read a particular, right? So what's the right word? To concur means to agree, not the right context here. Revealed means to make known. Okay. And we also have a clue word, a survey, right? Inferred means I inferred, I guessed, or I figured out the meaning, or I understood, right? And then I have exposed. Exposed normally, I would say, has like a negative connotation. You can again, expose is nothing but also you're making known something, but usually something discreditable, right? What do I mean by this? Something that is not right? When you expose someone, either they've done something wrong, right? Or they've done something against the law, right? Like you can expose a criminal or you can expose a swindler, right? So not the right word in the context. So we have to choose between revealed and inferred. What's the more appropriate? So here, the survey is not conquering or exposing or inferring. The survey is revealing. That's the function of a survey, right? What does a survey do? Why do we conduct a survey? To reveal something, right? Surveys are conducted to reveal either a fact or some sort of or to study something that is unknown to us, like to study an unknown factor, right? So the right option here is revealed. It was recently revealed that parents wish their children to read books with high morale. We look at the other blanks as we go by, but let's look at the fifth one. It says, this Christmas tale dash the filthy rich but dash Scrooge. We have the fifth one here next. Options are revolving, employing, involving, devolving. To infer, see, would you say concluding in a survey by a library, it was recently concluded that parents wish, or it was recently revealed? Like I said, let's understand, this is your clue word, survey, right? Why do you conduct a survey? To reveal, to make known either an unknown, to reveal an unknown factor where you can work and do something about it, right? You want to take necessary measures or action items to figure out what to do for that particular problem or situation. Or to reveal some sort of a fact, right? That's the right word. It's a more appropriate word. Then inferred. So fifth one, this Christmas tale dash the filthy rich. This Christmas tale that revolves around. So revolving, not a right option. Not the right, in the context at least. Employing, again, unrelated word. Involving, yes, seems like our correct option, right? Involving the filthy rich. So this tale involves the filthy rich. Devolving, again, is an unrelated word. The ninth blank. The context is, the choice of book was rather dash because this romantic novel is more likely to dash teenagers than children. Distract, presume, attract, repuse. So ninth one, because this romantic novel is more likely to dash teenagers than children. So they're talking about, again, your clue phrase is romance. Romance would, and they're referring to more likely. So it's more likely inclined towards teenagers than when it comes to children. So what's the right word here? Is it distract? Definitely not. Presume, again, not a right word. Attract, right? It's more likely to attract teenagers than children. So we have our answers here. Repulse. That's the word. Okay. So obviously it has to be attract. Let's move on, look at other options. 8th, 6th and 3rd. So 8th one, again, we already have this as attract. The choice of books was rather dash. So the context before that explains that, right? It says, another book which many parents marked out a dash read was Austen's Pride and Prejudice. So Austen's Pride and Prejudice was rather dash because this romantic novel, referring to Austen's Pride and Prejudice, is more likely to attract teenagers. So what is the option for the 8th? It says unsuspected, unexpected, unfortunate, unnerving. The right option obviously has to be unexpected, because why was it unexpected? Because this particular book that the parents chose is more likely to attract teenagers than children. 6th one, we already covered involving here. So this Christmas tale involving the filthy rich, but dash Scrooge and the poor. So I have all these adjectives for the 6th blank. Finicky, fastidious, stingy, fussy. Now, if you notice or if you follow, if you've seen any of Uncle Scrooge Donald Duck series, cartoon, right? Which is a very old cartoon. Uncle Scrooge is portrayed as somebody who's who's a miser, basically, right? Who doesn't like to who doesn't like to spend, who doesn't like to spend lavishly, right? He doesn't want to use his money. He wants to collect and save all the money. So obviously, the answer is, we're looking at some adjective here. All the options are adjectives, but we want the right adjective to describe Scrooge. So if you follow that, you know the answer is stingy. Option C. Stingy Scrooge. That's his character in the cartoon. So stingy Scrooge and the poor but contented Cratchit family offer lessons in moral duties. Then we have for the 3rd blank. In a survey dashed by a library, it was recently revealed that parents wish their children to read books with high morale. What's the options? I have content, deliberation, ground, dilemma. Obviously, the entire passage is revolving around books. So the right option has to be content. Option A. Let's move on. Okay. So we have whatever is left here, which is the fourth blank. Let's read. Around 2,000 parents were interviewed and most of them dash Dickens' The Christmas Carol as a must read for children. So a particular book is put forward as a must read. Those are your clue phrases. Options for the fourth blank: remarked, restored, revised, recommended. So basically here the right answer option has to be recommended, right? A must read. So they're putting forward. I substituted the blank with my own word and the closest one in option is recommended. Recommended Christmas Carol as a must read for children. The first one, in a survey dashed by a library. This should be an easy one. Employed, circulated, maintained, conducted. What's the right word here? The first blank, in a survey, it's a clear collocation. So the collocation has to be, in a survey conducted by a library, it was recently revealed that parents wish their children to read books with high moral content. Around 2,000 parents were interviewed and most of them recommended Dickens' The Christmas Carol as a must read for children. This Christmas tale involving the filthy rich but stingy Scrooge and the poor but contented Cratchit family offers lessons in moral duties. Another book which many parents marked out a dash read. Credible, mandatory, conclusive, reconciliatory. What is going to be our options? So keep in mind, we're basically looking for a word that is closest in meaning in terms of describing what sort of a read is this. Also, don't go by a pure collocation. Look at the context, try and understand what the context is trying to say. So they want high moral content books. Okay. So another book which many parents marked out a dash read. We've already saw that they have recommended The Christmas Carol, right, as a must read for children. So another book that they marked out, what is reconciliatory? Quickly, if I say I'm reconciling with you, what does it mean? So maybe I had a fight with one of my friend and I'm trying to make amends. I'm going back and I'm trying to ensure that the relationship doesn't get affected. I'm reconciling with so and so, right? Is that the right word here? To restore, to come to terms, okay, which can be thought again. So here, is that the right word for the seventh blank? The choice of book was rather reconciliatory. No, we can safely rule out option D. It's not the right word choice at all. So out of conclusive, again, unrelated word here. So out of credible and mandatory, though both are very much in line with what we're looking at, the reason why they picked this particular novel is to ensure that some particular goal is achieved, right? They want children to read this particular novel because they believe that there is something reasonable for them to learn from it. So, more than mandatory, credible seems like a more effective word simply for the fact that if I say something is credible, right? I'm saying something is believable, something is reasonable. Keeping in mind the goal that the parents are trying to achieve here by selecting and identifying these books that the children must read, right? So they want the children to learn something constructive from the books, yeah? So when I say something is mandatory, it's almost like some rule that you have to follow, right? Like a mandate. You have to do this. Reading is not just for pleasure. Reading is also for kind of gaining certain insights and knowledge, right? So credible would be a more appropriate option here rather than mandatory. They don't want to force it down on them, right? It's not something that they want to force, right? Though it looks like a collocation, but looking at the context, we need to find a word that is more suitable where the parents are recommending this, right? They're suggesting. So keeping that in mind, mandatory would not be an option, right? Mandatory is more to do, yes, like Toshit and other people are saying, it's almost like an order or a compulsion that you have to do this. That's not what the parents are trying to do. They're saying, hey, we believe that you should read this book simply because for these reasons. One, it has high moral content, and I think it will help you constructively, productively, blah, 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 right? The more effective word in the context would be credible read rather than mandatory, because like I said, when you say something is mandatory, you are giving an ultimatum saying you need to follow this. If not, there will be consequences. That's not the meaning that the context is saying. They are recommending. When you recommend someone, you're suggesting, right? You believe that this can be helpful for them. That's why you recommend to someone, right? So keeping that in mind, the more appropriate option is credible rather than mandatory. Are you guys following the difference? You can easily get a little confused with these two options, but keeping the context in mind, and hopefully you understood what I explained, credible would be a more appropriate word.